Good morning. Right side of the news with John Knight and Nick Gardner. Peace, love, and waterbeds, that's us.
And rainbows.
I don't know about that. I'm not one of them fruity characters.
Hey, we're going to take the rainbows back.
Okay, that sounds good to me. Hey, before we get started, I want to give a shout out to Kelly Frost on KQMS last Saturday. He announced that my other show, Poke the Hornet's Nest, Sunday morning at 8 a.m., we've got an interview with Shasta Anon. If you haven't been to Shasta Anon, go to Shasta Anon and look at some of their videos.
Very high quality.
That's right.
And informative.
That's right. And it lets you know maybe how some of these local politicians and important people around town gives you their background, and maybe they're not so important after you watch this. That's my opinion. In fact, this whole show's about our opinions, so don't sue us. What was I going to talk about? John and I were just talking about how specific he is when he goes someplace. He says, you know, he'll be on the phone and say, I'll be there in 7 minutes. He's quite specific. I might say I'll be there in 5 or 10 minutes. But it got me thinking, when somebody leaves you waiting, I used to have a friend like that. Oh, I'll be there at 12. 12:30, he's still not there. You know what he's done? He has stolen my time. When you're sitting there waiting for somebody, they're stealing your time. It's important to be punctual. My mother was always late. I'm very punctual.
Absolutely. I mean, we're all human. I made a mistake a couple weeks ago, but I left you hanging. But
oh,
yeah.
Well, we got through
guilty.
it. We just get to talking. You know, my attitude is, if you don't like me, don't listen to me.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I try to tell my kids. My boys are fighting all the time. I'm just like, go do your own thing. You know,
that's the best thing you can do instead of sticking up for one or the other or making one into a little sissy.
Yeah.
Always running to daddy because things aren't going well his way. Learn how to deal with it.
I just say you're both going to be in trouble if you keep it up. I don't care who.
There you go.
Yeah. It always happens when we're in the car for some reason. I don't know why. You get in the car and we don't make it 5 minutes without some kind of argument. Maybe because they sit back there together. I have no idea.
Yes. Okay, so last week on Carl Bott's show, I've got a frog in my throat. I think it was Wednesday, the last hour of his show. He had Tanessa Audette on. And we're going to play a clip of the last 10 minutes. And this clip's important because it might help you decide whether you want to vote for the 1 cent sales tax or not. You know, a lot of people like to have it pointed out that 1 cent is actually 14, why don't you take over?
14%? He got a frog in his throat. So yeah, 1%, 1 cent increase of 7.25% is around a 14% increase, I think is where he was going. But that's quite a bit more. And you know, it doesn't seem like much, but for me, it's a slippery slope. Look how far we've come. The beginning of this country, we were never supposed to pay over 10%. And now we pay, and I'm not talking in sales tax, I'm talking in total tax. We were never supposed to be taxed over 10%. And now, depending with all the fees, I mean, if you're taxed too much, they just call it a fee, but it's been a slippery slope over the last 240 years to paying almost nothing in taxes to being taxed, I mean, up to 75% when you add everything together.
Oh, absolutely. And has our quality of life gotten better?
Yeah, I mean, you got to, everything you own, like your car, you got to pay the registration. And I understand you're supposed to fix the roads and all that kind of stuff. That could all be paid with consumer tax. Everything could be paid with consumer tax. We could own one house and not pay any taxes on it. How could you own something if it could be taken away from you if you don't pay the taxes on it? Think about that. Oh, your car gets impounded and then you got to pay thousands that you can't even go get your driver's license, which is a privilege. And
you know, it was a lot worse before we had Proposition 13 also. Your tax was just astronomical. It was almost the same as your house payment.
Yeah, that locked it in at 1%, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get around that for the last few years. They've been trying to make commercial real estate an exception, and it can be reassessed and taxed more. And as soon as they get their foot in the door, you know they're going to be going after homeowners. I've lived in my house and owned my house for 25 years, and so my tax rate's quite a bit lower than liberal that moved in next door and paid market value for his house now. But that's too bad, so sad.
Yeah, so I was talking to these people. I was in Hawaii. I used to live out there on the Big Island, and I was at the hot pond or warm pond. Anyways, I'll just get to the moral of the story here is I was talking. They're real nice people from New York. They had a ranch they inherited from, I believe it was the wife's parents. And we were just talking about the world and stuff. And so they inherited this ranch, and then they came in and reassessed it at $5 million or something like that. And this was passed down, I believe for a couple generations. I believe it was the grandparents passed it to the parents and the parents passed it to them. Well, they came in and reassessed it. And I believe the property tax was around $250,000 a year. I don't remember. I'm getting the numbers a little messed, but their tax in their area was much higher.
Sure.
Like much, much higher.
They're forced to sell.
Yeah, they were forced to sell. And this is something passed down for generations in their family. And they said, and then guess what? You sell it and then you're taxed on all that money. Like, it's crazy. You can't even keep a piece of property passed down for generations because it's too expensive to keep.
So we're going to go to this clip with Tanessa and listen to it real closely. And this is going to tell you what they've done with our tax money in the last 4 years, as far as them getting raises on getting personal raises from the city of Reading. And when you hear this, do you really want to give them another 1 cent tax? So here we go right now.
Everybody a raise.
A raise, especially
Market
those big
rate.
ones. Yeah, the big ones, big raises.
Okay, let me tell you a little bit about these big raises.
Okay.
Because one of the very interesting things that I have found that is just sort of leaves you awestruck is that in January of 22, it wasn't just that they gave people raises, okay? What they also did, which you don't see in the paperwork that is, presented to the council or to the public, is that while the maximums are raised by like an average in the first year, it's 3-part raise, but the very first bump is 18%. Like for executives, 20%. For the bargaining units, it might have started at 20%. It might have started at 5%, or maybe they do 3 escalators in 1 year. So you get to 15% in the first year, but it looks like it's 3, that kind of thing.
Right.
But for the executives, so they think about it this way: that first bump, let's say it's a 20% raise for an executive in their maximum. The minimum was raised by 40%. It doubled what the maximum was. So you now have the maximum or the minimum exceeding the maximum by double what that increase was. So let's just say you were a new director and you are getting paid $100,000 a year. Well, between 2021 and 2024, you'll get like a $70,000 raise for just being new. If you were a tenured person at the top of your pay scale, you might have gotten a $35,000 raise. So it's permanent raises. Legitimately, the maximum, previous maximum is now the minimum pay.
But the city council had to approve this.
Of course they did, if they knew and understood exactly what that looked like. So when you look at all I have wasn't there, so all I have is what is publicly available. Mm-hmm. And what's publicly available is a sheet that shows you the maximum increase for a bunch of these positions. And so they're increasing the max. You don't see the minimum increase. And I'd bet my bottom dollar that none of the council that were there has any idea that that's what happened to the bottom. I don't think that they even know that. I don't think they're aware of that. They may have been told, for compression purposes, we need to move up the minimum, but I don't think they conceptually understood. I created a chart because I was reading through these things and I'm like, I'm looking at the maximums, and then I put the whole thing into a chart, and I was like awestruck at what I saw when I started to calculate year over year what the increases were. And I thought maybe I had done it wrong. And so I had to go back and check. And, you get a staff report and it has, let's say it has 3 or 4 raises within it. Well, those are all on like 3 different pieces of paper. It doesn't show, there's no comparable to it. It's just that year's increase, but you don't see what it is as an increase of the year before. The body of the staff report does not say we're giving this percent, this percent, this percent. You have to do a lot of work in order to understand exactly what it is that's happening. And if you're told it in closed session and it's, 15 minutes to talk about, I wasn't there. I'm just saying in theory, if it's 15 minutes to talk about it and it's just a narration that you're told, you're not physically seeing what this looks like with that type of calculation, there's no way that you would know. There's just, unless you sat down and did a spreadsheet, which I feel like now every new council member, I need to give them a calculator
it makes it sound like the bureaucracy of the city, while not lying, were omitting things. Would you say that?
Well, I called my BFF, Michael DeQuisto, and asked him, I was like, let me ask you some questions. Like, let me just ask you what you knew. Because I truly, truly believe, being on the council now, I truly believe that if the council saw these, it's numbers, you can make them look like whatever. But if the council had seen the really what it is that they were voting on, and they understood, and they saw it in 3 different ways, and they understood it, I do not think that they would make that decision.
That's another discussion, total discussion. When you have a city council, it's part-time, even though it's not part-time. And they don't get paid squat.
We get $600 a month.
Yeah.
It's quite lucrative.
Yeah, well, it is. And, but what I'm saying is that with the amount of paperwork that rolls through there, and, if you've got a business, that's what you're kind of focusing on. It's not really a surprise. However, it's, I've made scientists from the Space Center come back to me 3 times with a briefing until I and my other 2 people with me could understand it because of things like this. I said, get your crayons out, boys, because we need to understand this before we spend several $1 million. But and I don't even have time now to ask. I'm going to bring back the tobacco tax, or tobacco fee. I am so adamantly against it because it didn't go after the ones who are causing the problem, the vape. And you are the only one that voted against this.
Well, it's illogical. That exact idea and concept and ordinance,
So there you go. Carl mentioned that they kind of held back some of the data on that to get the decision they wanted from the city council. And I wonder who they is. I suspect they is Barry Tippin and the bureaucracy, the head cheeses around the city of Reading. And when somebody deliberately deceives you, they're lying to you, and it's my opinion they should be fired. Personally, I think Barry should have been fired a long time ago. The city of Reading used to have mayors. We used to elect a mayor, and that changed. I don't know who the last mayor was, but that changed when they brought Mike Warren to Reading. And we've had 3 city managers, Mike Warren, Kurt Starman, and Barry Tippin. And as far as I'm concerned, everything's gone to hell since Mike Warren showed up. But, if you don't understand that, listen to it again. I brought this up on my other show, how much the chief of police, Barry Tippin, and other people had gotten $70,000, $80,000 worth of raises in the last 3 years, and this explains it a lot better. And, that's not what we signed up for. We signed up for people that would represent us and run our community in a safe manner, which I don't believe they've done, and keep our infrastructure up. And I believe that they're letting the infrastructure go to hell so they can get the 1 cent sales tax. Do you have any thoughts on that, John?
There's definitely people benefit a lot off of crisis, and you can look at it on a large scale or a micro scale. And, that's something I'd have to look deeper into. But absolutely, it makes sense, create the problem or let the problem happen. And then you come up with a solution that just happens to benefit you. That seems to be what people do in this world quite a bit.
I'd wager that, I hear that the city of Reading gets money for letting parolees come to Reading. I've heard that they get money for letting out-of-town homeless come to Redding, specifically San Francisco. I've heard a lot of those rumors. I don't know if I could ever confirm them, but I do see new parolees in town all the time and new out-of-town homeless. It gets frustrating because, in my opinion, our community could be a lot safer than it is right now. So listen, I've got a clip on somebody that is going to run for supervisors. We'll get to that next. Let Leslie have a chance to bring it up. It's very interesting. This person was a supervisor before, and I've asked numerous people if he had any accomplishments as a supervisor, and no, nobody can think of any accomplishments. His one big push was to get a fire hydrant out at Igo or Ono, one or the other, and that didn't come to fruition. That's after the Zog fire out there burnt the place down. And, he's been instrumental in cleaning up Keswick after the Zog fire, but I can't see where it's cleaned up. In fact, it's gotten a lot worse because now you can see what was going on out there. There's no trees or brush to hide what they're doing. Are you ready, Leslie? She's ready. Here, we're going to announce Tim Garman.
Tiptoe through the window, by the window, that is where I'll be. Come tiptoe through the tulips with me. Oh, tiptoe from the garden, by the garden, of the willow tree, and tiptoe through the tulips with me.
Tiny Tim Garman, that's me, and I'm running for your district. What district is it? He's going to run against Chris Kellstrom.
That's
to be
District 5.
That's right. Tiny Tim's your man on the scene. We're going to go to some two clips from Redacted, and then we'll take a break, and John Knight will take over. He's got some interesting stuff he wants to talk about. So if you're ready for that first clip, play it up whenever you want to. I go to Redacted quite often. Imagine if you went to redacted.com. It's a podcast, and it's two really smart people that talk about local things nationally, kind of like Stephen Gardner. He's a really good one, too, to keep you up to date what's going on and give you an honest evaluation from somebody that loves their country about what's going on. And so are we ready for that? We're ready for that.
Hey,
Hold
before
on.
you go to that clip real quick, I was just trying to look up and see how the money comes in for the homeless and the parolees and stuff like
Go
that.
ahead.
'Cause I wanted to get, I'm finding some information from 2016, and it looks like a lot of what it is you kind of were talking about a crisis. You declare a crisis of homelessness and these and parolees. It looks like, well, just in the homeless part of it, in 2016 there was $34.2 million that was through state and federal grants and stuff like that. So it looks like a lot of that money doesn't necessarily get taken from the general fund, but if there's a crisis with homeless or that's
That's money that the city of Redding got?
the Shasta County and the city of Redding.
Okay, I remember when Julie Winter was in there, and they kept doing that point in time count, and there was anywhere from 300 to 500 homeless. And 3 months later, they wrote Gavin Newsom wanting to declare a crisis because there were 3,000 homeless in Redding, and it seems like they just kind of fluctuate back and forth to whatever suits their agenda.
Yeah, well, we'll do a deep dive on that here maybe in a couple weeks or something.
That sounds great.
We could do a whole show on that.
That sounds great. I'd like to do that. Okay, here comes Redacted, and this has to do with the FBI, and we'll just listen to them.
Well, a lot of new revelations this morning, so a lot of new news coming out of the FBI, but is it new or are they just dragging us along by the nose? Let us know in the comments below. Well, the FBI is suddenly finding a lot of new things, a lot of missing things, like things they lost in their couch cushions, I guess. This morning, FBI Director Kash Patel once again told Fox News that they've found once hidden burn bags filled with incredible information. Burn bags.
Now, let me just, is that a real thing? And also, why would the FBI have it? What is it that they need to burn ever?
I don't know.
Is it standard practice that the FBI should ever burn evidence? Under what circumstances
No,
would we
I don't know if it's
use
standard
this?
practice. I wish I was an FBI agent. I could answer that question.
I mean,
but
isn't that
I'm
the
not,
equivalent
so
of-
I
Right,
don't
so
exactly
let's
know.
stretch our imagination.
Leslie.
Under what circumstances would we be?
Okay. Yeah, all they need to do is invest in a barbecue. And they would, I mean, I'm just saying, they wouldn't have to have all these burn bags. It would look a lot less suspicious if they just had a barbecue.
But her point is
I know, I'm just being.
they could cook dinner lunch at the
I
same
mean, they
time,
would
huh?
have they would have never got caught if they just had a barbecue and they just burned it on the barbecue.
Hey,
Then
you know,
nobody would ever say anything.
I'd like to take a moment and say hi to our most trusted listener. Good morning, Christian Gardner. How are you? Maybe you'd like to call in and give us your opinion. What's the phone number here?
Well, we're not live right now.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Next time.
Okay,
Next time.
we'll be looking forward to it.
All
let's,
right.
let's finish that clip. But
Go ahead.
why would they burn anything? I mean, their job is to gather evidence. Do
Yeah.
they burn the evidence they don't want us to see? I think that's the point she's trying to get across to us.
Absolutely.
For the government. Go ahead, Philip.
I was just saying, isn't that kind of like a mini Watergate? Like, they got in trouble for destroying documents. Like, their documents should never be, if you're going to be transparent, they should never be destroyed.
Right. Again, we're not experts here. We read these investigations all the time. I just want to know if we can stretch our imagination and say under what circumstances would it be appropriate for the government to ever burn things, evidence.
Well, I found them, so apparently they weren't burned, but they were kept in these bags. I don't know. Of course, he told Fox News that, of course. So we're also learning the FBI suddenly found the missing minute of prison video footage outside of Jeffrey Epstein's cell. Where'd that minute go? Where was it hiding? Was it in one of those burn bags?
Under what circumstances should we be editing videos? Under what circumstances?
Hang on though. They found the missing minute, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was this? Was this on like what freaking 8mm like video reel? What was it like on the cutting room floor? It was digitally removed.
It was a VHS tape that said missing minute. And they're like, oh my God, it was on our shelf the whole time. The missing minute of video footage was on this VHS tape. You know what? Someone put it in the wrong case. They put it in the Ace Ventura Pet Detective case instead of the original VHS cover. So where'd that minute go? Was it also in a burn bag somewhere? How did they suddenly find it? Well, more on that in a second. Meanwhile, Ghislaine.
So there you go. They found a secret room, and there's burn bags in it that, in my opinion, a government organization shouldn't have burn bags because then they're picking and choosing the information they want us to hear. That's not their job. But, you know, it comes into the question, why do they have that? I have no doubt they were doing it. Why'd they put it in a secret room? I've got an idea that an underling, somebody down a little bit on the food chain in the FBI, didn't like what was going on and put those away so they would be found at a later date. That would be my guess.
Yeah, because that makes a lot of sense because and maybe the person that was put in charge of getting rid of that minute might have put that aside too. You know, I mean, that makes sense because it doesn't happen on its own. I mean, that doesn't happen on its own. I think Jeffrey Epstein's still alive. Either that or there's a massive cover up of what actually happened.
I heard that he's got an application in to run for to be appointed city manager of Reading. Barry Tippin's retiring the 1st of December.
Have you ever seen the masks that people put on that are like silicone masks?
Oh, I have, yes.
Oh man, it is crazy how, I mean,
accurate they can be. realistic.
It's insane. I mean, they put these things on, and you could look like it's like some stuff out of the movies that you would see where the spy person looks like someone else, but it's real. I mean, you put these silicone masks on, and I mean, everything looks real, and you could totally look like almost anybody.
Sure.
And it's really wild. But so Ghislaine, she actually, her dad was Mossad. Epstein was working for the CIA and Mossad for Israel and the deep state of Israel and the deep state of the United States. And then he just magically, we can't see the footage, and supposedly we're just supposed to believe everything we were told. When Obama went and got Osama bin Laden, they just threw the body in the water because they didn't want any repercussions. They didn't want to hurt any Muslims' feelings, so they just threw bin Laden in the ocean. So we have no evidence. We're just supposed to believe everything that they tell us.
That's right.
Yeah, do you remember that? It was like he came out like a superhero, like, we got him. I gave the order. And then he gets to play the hero. But then look at Gaddafi. They let Gaddafi, they showed it all over the place, him getting beaten and killed live on TV. They didn't care about that. They wanted us to see that, but apparently when Osama, we're just supposed to believe everything we get spoon-fed, apparently.
Evidently, and speaking of Muslims and that type of thing, I've got a friend, Maria. She immigrated over here from Spain. She has a lot of family over in Spain, and I talk to her quite often. And she said that the influx of immigrants, Muslim immigrants, have ruined Europe, Spain in particular, Portugal in particular, that they just move them into houses and put multiple military-age single adults in these houses, give them subsistence, and they don't have anything to do, so they're roaming the streets in gangs, and they've gotten to where they're beating up old people for entertainment. Well, the population from Spain has gotten wise. They've now gotten all pets of pot-bellied pigs, and when they go out, they take their pig with them. Muslims don't like pigs.
Oh, gotcha.
They go to the beach, they take their pig with them. They go anywhere.
Yeah, the destruction of culture has been happening, all over the place.
You talk to some people from Europe, and they say, oh, that's not happening. And it compares a lot to the United States here. Say Chicago. A friend of mine had some kind of a shirt-tail relative come out here for a family reunion from Chicago. She was a lawyer in Chicago. And he said, well, what about all the crime in Chicago? Doesn't that bother you? And she says, oh, that's over there. So, I'm assuming they've got their ghetto where all these problems are happening, but the affluent people, the government workers, the lawyers, those kind of people, they never see it because they're living in gated communities or a part of the town that's protected.
Yeah, same thing like you go to San Francisco, you could go to some really nice neighborhoods. You're not going to see any homeless people on the streets of these, $6 million houses and where all the rich people and politicians live. You're going to see them, in other places where all the peasants are.
City of Reading signed a contract with those affluent places to take their homeless for them.
Yeah. Are they making money off that?
I don't know. They never seem to be making enough.
I know, right?
There's, I believe it's 12, 13 people, and this is 224. It was 2023 that were costing the taxpayers over $400,000 a year, City of Reading, management.
Okay.
And that's a big chunk of money for your gross income. As well as I do as a private employer, when you pay somebody $100, it's going to cost you $140 or $150. It'll cost you $40 or $50 more because of insurance, Social Security taxes you have to match, that kind of stuff. So that's where that high price comes from. I mean, some of their CalPERS contributions from the taxpayers is over $100,000 for their retirement.
Yeah, I believe we're almost $1 billion in debt, complete with CalPERS and everything. I mean, it's in
how much?
$1 billion in Shasta County.
Oh, yeah.
In obligations of what we're going to.
Oh, yeah. Well, the City of Reading also. So that's $2 billion. You've got close to $1 billion for the City of Reading, unfunded paid liabilities. You can find that by going to CalPERS Actuary Report. And you fish around there. The last time I was there, it was on page 19. And it actually had a chart on how much their payments were each year. And the last time I looked, a couple years ago, the city of Reading was paying $25 million for unfunded pension liabilities, as well as the county. So that's $50 million coming out of our county to pay for the retirement of government employees. And some of them get an awful lucrative retirement. You take Alan Long, he's getting almost $150,000 a year, CalPERS. He was a police policeman and a detective for 25 years, so he retired at $150,000 a year. Now he's getting not quite $75,000 a year as a county supervisor. So he is not working in the private sector his whole life. He's sucking the government's hind tit in retirement for $225,000. That's
Wow.
what we're paying.
Wow. That's incredible.
Leonard Mody's getting over $200,000 a year. Mike Warren was getting $20,000 a month the last I looked. It was 3 or 4 years ago. Barry Tippin, I'd hesitate to guess what he's getting. We've got, I think, 4 or 5 retired police chiefs that are getting buku bucks. I would say $150,000 to $200,000 a year retirement. And they're only a police chief for 5 years.
Sounds to me like we got to raise the sales tax by a nickel.
Well, yes. Well, I'm worried about how they're getting along. You know, the price of everything's going up. If you want a deal on groceries, I better not say who it is, but the store I shop at, when I get up there, I'll get my bill and I'll say, look at that. I got $15 worth of groceries for $27.41. What a deal. That's about what it is anymore.
Oh, yeah. Some stuff, the taco truck out in front of my store, I mean, a box of limes went from $50 to $100. Their meat went from $4 to $8 a pound. That's
Sure.
certain cuts of meat. I mean, it seems like it pretty much doubled, so they're stuck. Do we make smaller tacos or smaller burritos? Do we raise the price? Do we, everybody, and then people are mad because they're like, I want $1 taco. Well, if it takes $1.50 or $2 to make a taco, how do you sell it for $1? I mean,
yeah, and you know who's getting hurt the worst with this inflation on food and the prices and everything is the person that owns the restaurant or the truck or whatever. Their profit margin, I would guess, would be cut more than in half in the last couple of years.
Oh yeah, and the thing is if people don't have money, they're not going to spend money, so they're not. It's not just that they're not buying new cars; they're not going out to eat as much, and people are probably not shopping as much either. I know there's a huge influx of people growing their own food, just because that's what I do for a living, is sell gardening supplies, and I mean, there's a lot of people in the last 4 or 5 years that have. They're like, this is my first year doing a garden, and you can see them just glowing because when they're eating tomatoes or carrots or cucumbers or whatever it is they're growing, and they're potatoes, and they're eating it fresh out of the garden, they can't believe how good it is, and you save like a lot of money, and it's a little bit of effort you got to put in there, but anyways, a lot of people are getting into that, and I barely shop at the store anymore personally. I mean, I'm not making enough money to go out and eat. I eat out probably once a month or something like that. I mean, you take me and my wife and my 2 kids to go eat, and it's $120, and there's only 2 places in town I like to eat, and I'm not going to name them because that's going to make everybody else feel bad. But, anyways, I just, everyone's having to spend less because there's the cost. They're either making less money or they're making the same amount of money, and the cost of everything has gone up. There's very few who are doing well right now.
I'm going to leave you with this thought, and then I think it's probably time to go for a break. So, the same thing that's happened the last 4 or 5 years happened with Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan. When Jimmy Carter was in office, the price of gas skyrocketed, inflation went skyrocketed. I remember interest on mortgages was, 14, 15, 16%.
Wow.
You could get C notes. I got some C notes from a place that was called Fireside Financial, and I believe it was paying 18%. And unemployment was high, and inflation was out of the roof, like I just said. And then Reagan came in, and he changed policies, and Reagan didn't do as good a job as Donald Trump is doing, making the transition, because we starved to death the first 2 years of Reagan's presidency, maybe a little bit more than that, but he won on a landslide. He won 49 of 50 states when he ran for re-election because people believed in his policies and what he was doing. And it set the tone for a wonderful economy through Bill Clinton's term. So are we ready for a break? Yeah, we're
All right.
breaking.
I want to take the time to thank the sponsors that help keep our lights on and our partnership with 22 Salute Coffee. They have absolutely amazing coffee. Their bourbon is absolutely the best bourbon I've ever had. It helps keep the lights on here. If you go to Mountaintop Media and purchase, you save 10%, and the rest of the money goes towards helping first responders and veteran suicide prevention. So you're supporting a good cause, you're getting a good product, and you're helping us keep the lights on here, which we have no outside funding, no government funding, no NGO funding, so it really helps us. Jefferson State Diesel, absolutely the best place to take your diesel in. If you have a vehicle with a diesel, they're absolutely the best. Both owners are on site. They support the community. They always are supporting patriots. And there's absolutely nowhere else I would go to take my truck to get worked on and trust them to do a good job and never scam somebody. And they help us keep the lights on here. They're our number one first sponsor that really stepped up to the plate. I also want to take the time to give a shout out to Taylor Motors. They are an amazing family. If I was going to go and buy a new vehicle, absolutely, I would go nowhere else other than Taylor Motors. And they also sell used vehicles. So, and if you buy that, it's new to you. And they are actually, they're a top tier sponsor. They really stepped up to the plate. They're always going to fundraisers to support the right people. They're huge supporters of the right people in the community. And they have a lot of integrity, and the family's great. Also, Taylor Collision Center. Hopefully I don't get any accidents, or somebody just actually swiped my wife's vehicle the other day in the parking lot, and they just drove off, and it was a little ding. So I'm not necessarily, I don't know if we're going to take that in, but hopefully nobody bangs my truck up or her vehicle to where we have to take it in there. But if I did, I would absolutely take it to Taylor Collision Center. They have a lot of integrity, very good, honest people. And there's nowhere else I would take my vehicle. Thank you for watching, and support the other people in the community that support us. We're about out of time, and I was just bringing up a couple things to hopefully stir up some conversations.
Okay, well, let me remind you, Shasta Anon will be on Poke the Hornet's Nest Sunday morning at 8 o'clock, KCNR1460.com, 96.5 FM. It's very interesting. We're going to have them. Just like us, we run out of time. But if you wanted to go watch their clips, there's a very good clip about Dan Sloan on there. It's only about 5 minutes. In fact, maybe Leslie will play it when our show's over and let it run. If you stay tuned in, you can see it, and it's a good... Okay, here's Patrick Jones's Town Hall. It's Mark Cook. It's tonight at 5 o'clock. handcountroadshow.org. That's where you can check it out. handcountroadshow.org. And it's at the Veterans...
VFW Hall in Anderson.
Yes, be there or be square. So I guess that's it.
All right. Thanks, Nick. I always appreciate you for putting up with me.
Well, I always appreciate you putting up with me. Most people see me come and they turn off the lights, pull the shades, and pretend they're not home.